Welcome to the Essence of the Soul.
A safe haven for all souls.
My name is Linda.
And my name is Paris, and welcome to episode 4. Today we're going to be talking about inner child healing and shadow work. So what is shadow work, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just give like a little brief introduction to what shadow work is, but I will say that it's mostly the dark sides of you, the dark parts of you that's deep inside of you that you don't consciously think about every single day. It's some things, like it's literally in the name, shadow work. So it's your shadows. It's the parts of you that almost, in a sense, kind of haunt you a little bit.
Or the parts that you don't like about yourself too.
Yes.
The negative aspects, which, you need to overcome these negative aspects to become, the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And shadow work is not the easiest thing to do, but it's a part of, the spiritual journey, and it's a part of who we are and what we have to do the inner work and to evolve as humans. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would like to say that, shadow work has helped me a lot in my spiritual journey. I feel like it's one of the most crucial parts in order to even have this spiritual growth to this self-development of becoming the best version of yourself.
Yes, of course. So inner child healing, shadow work, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so I would like to introduce this shadow work journal. This is like a journal that both Paris and I have used in our journey to really go deeper into our subconscious and dive into what is the issue and like why do I act the way I act? Why do I feel this way? It just allows you to really do some like deep reflection that you don't really consciously think about on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, it is a great guide.
And it is called The Shadow Work Journal by Zenful Note. We will put a link to this in the caption description, but this has been a very helpful tool, and I'm pretty sure it'll help a lot of you as well.
Yes, for sure. All right, so let's get into our shadows. So with Linda, maybe you kind of want to start going into a sort of topic that was in the book that helped you reflect into kind of deep inner child healing.
Yeah, so of course, like as adults, like sometimes we are not conscious of like why we have these shadow parts of ourselves, and they always lead back to the root issue, which is your childhood. You go through a lot during your childhood, a lot of like experiences, a lot of things that might have like shaped you to become who you are today, but it's important to acknowledge that. So one of the questions that really helped me was, as a child, I was told not to blank. And so for me, it was specifically like crying. As a child, I was told not to cry because, this was a sign of weakness, or, being too soft, or, being afraid of being shamed for not, being
emotional or, vulnerable.
Exactly. And I had, a difficult time with that growing up, being vulnerable, because I didn't want to show the weaknesses. I didn't want to show the world that, I am sensitive, or I can be soft. But this is, all part of who we are too.
Yeah.
You have to be able to express your feelings and like really feel and sit with your emotions. And so because I was not able to, express this part of me, I tend to bottle my emotions inside. And so, like you go through a lot of experiences on a day-to-day basis, and you just bottle all these emotions, these feelings, whatever it is. And then like, there's just so much time before you explode.
Yeah.
And when, like that happens, everyone around you is like, oh, like, what did I do wrong? But sometimes it's not, always their fault. It's because I've already been going through a lot that I've suppressed, and I wasn't able to really feel it and release these feelings and emotions. But then, one of the prompts in this question was, what do I wish I was able to do? And for me, I wish I was able to verbalize and understand my emotions. I wish my guardians would have taught me that, because then I wouldn't have really like, been this type of person that, bottles everything in.
Yeah, for sure. I do get that, which is so interesting because I'm like the complete opposite, and I basically cry about everything. So,
yeah.
I mean, I understand that sort of inner child wound,
Yeah.
So I guess understanding, you know, what you kind of went through, it's interesting as a child that we go through different and similar experiences in a sense. But I will say, in my experience, I was such a crybaby. My family would always tell me that. But at the same time, I do resonate with you because it was always kind of like I was seen as being too dramatic or too emotional or you know, I express myself too openly, too much.
Too
And
sensitive. Yeah, you get
yes,
called all sorts of names, right?
yes. But for me, it was like I was not able to control that side of myself because I was so emotional and, you know, I was young and I just had a lot of feelings. I had a lot of things that I had to express for myself. And it's cool to see when, you know, you're two different people and you kind of deal with things differently. But I will say, when I was younger, I always felt as if I wasn't understood. I was always kind of like in a sense where I felt supportive and happy for other people, and I always wanted the best for other people. And whenever it came to me, I never felt that sort of like validation or appreciation, which kind of stems, you know, deeper into my inner child wound, which comes from the people pleasing wound, you know.
Yes.
But I will say that as I kind of grew up, I didn't come to this consciousness yet until maybe a few years later when I got into college. But I will say that something that I craved a lot was freedom. And freedom is a big part of my purpose in life because to be free spirited, to be, you know, free from all trappedness or whatever it is that I was going through as a teenager up into being an adult, I feel like that was just something that I craved a lot. I wanted to be able to do the things that made me happy, that made me feel fulfilled. And to be honest, yeah, as a child, I did feel like I was never able to do that because I was always on like a sort of like supervision, or I didn't feel like I was old enough or, you know, responsible enough or whatever it was. I guess in a sense, I wasn't granted that sort of like, I guess, permission. You know what I mean? And so as a teenager, I was, yeah, very rebellious and I was also very sneaky. But for me, it was like I had to do what I had to do, right? Like, and these are things that I kind of had to face because, you know, back then I wasn't able to deal with it like head on. I wasn't able to just be like, oh, yes, I want to do this and I want to do that because the answer was always going to be no. And for me, it was like, great. The only way that I can get through this or get, you know, what I want out of this is just by, I guess, doing it in secret and
Yeah.
making, you know, everybody believe something different. And that was something that I had to face when I got older was, oh my gosh, I just wanted to be free and I just wanted to be happy and I wanted to hang out with these people and I wanted to, you know, experience the teenager life, you know, that
Just being a child. You know?
exactly. And I think maybe in a sense I had, you know, maybe friends in high school or whatever it was where everybody would say like, oh yeah, like I get to do this and I get to do that. And I always just felt the sense of like, oh, well, I won't be able to do that because I already know that, you know, maybe my parents are going to say yes and that I'm going to have to like, and a lot of times too, I will say, I'm grateful and I'm thankful for my safety. A lot of times it's because they didn't want me to go out and get hurt or they didn't want me to experience this sort of thing. But I think my parents also had to learn that, oh, she's, you know, she's growing up. We just need her to learn for herself. And that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted to experience things so that I could learn, so that I could fail and kind of have, like I said, the teenager experience, or even, you know, growing into a young adult. And even now, I'm still constantly learning. I'm still constantly failing and still succeeding. So I wanted the freedom to learn. I wanted the freedom to go out and experience. And most of all, what I wanted was for people to be happy for me, you know, and it wasn't that I wanted people to be like, wow, like you're so amazing and great, but it was that I wanted whatever choice or decision that I made in life, I wanted people to just simply say, well, if that makes you happy, then it
Yeah,
makes me happy.
just being supportive of
Right.
like, what you want to do, how you want to express yourself,
Exactly.
and having the freedom to do that.
Yes. And that was really all that I wanted as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And even till this day, but like I say, that is just like the people pleaser in me, and it goes deeper into my inner child, which maybe, you can kind of share more about some of the things that you've dealt with, talking about victim mentality.
Yeah, so like I feel like I didn't even know this was victim mentality until like I started doing shadow work. But like, I always felt like I was viewed as like the bad one, or like I was in the wrong, or just, whatever it is, like being viewed in like a negative aspect. And I always like reflected on this, like, was it something that I did wrong? Like, did I do anything wrong? I don't think I did anything wrong. Like, it's nothing that hurt anyone, or, you know, I guess like made anyone feel some type of way. But really, I feel like a lot of people like viewed me differently because of, their biases towards me being a child of divorced parents. And I feel like, this is not talked about enough in our community because, in the home community, if your parents are not together, it almost seems like people just view you differently. Like they see you as almost less of a person because your parents are not there. And this made me feel like very alone. And I feel like there was not really anyone there for me because, within like, my close groups, everyone had their parents. Like I was like one of like the, I guess, black sheeps that, had to go through being alone on this journey of not having both my parents there to support me either. And like, the people that I looked up to for support weren't there for me in that aspect too, because they viewed me differently. Or I guess in this case, like that's how I felt, which is why, it's victim mentality. I felt like the world was against me. And so I had to heal this by remembering my true self and accepting and loving myself, that I am not who they say I am. I am not who they think I am. Because, after doing all the reflection of what did I do wrong, and there's, nothing, it's, it leads back to just, sometimes people just view you in a different way, and you just have to not let that affect you. And so that's something I had to learn. And I realized that, in order to escape this feeling of, feeling alone, or like, people not loving me because I didn't have both my parents, I couldn't even sit with myself either. I always felt like I had to go out, go party, be with friends, be surrounded by people that I enjoyed to like not feel alone. I was craving love within. And through this, I really learned that, solitude allowed me to reflect on this, to realize that, the love that I was searching for, this external validation, was really just love for myself, because I didn't see that. I didn't see that I was worthy of love.
I think what's important to kind of, I guess, to kind of jump off of you is understanding that we are deserving of love, and we have love within, and also home is also within,
Yeah. I had to remind myself that, because I'm a person where like, because I wanted so much love, I ended up giving a lot of love to others. I'm like a giver type of person, and I do things to, like you say, people please, because I wanted to find that love from, other people to make me feel validated. But really, like, it wasn't love from other people, because, when I did start to feel love from others, for some reason, you still feel that way. And it's
You're,
because
like,
you don't love
unsatisfied.
yourself. You're not satisfied until you find that within.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Which I will tell you too, because I know you are more on the masculine side of things, which is this giver, this provider, somebody who loves to give. And I'll just put into perspective, which is that, when you allow yourself to receive, you're gifting somebody else the gift of giving. And in a sense, that's why I always say, when you receive something, do not question, and just accept it for what it is. And that's hard, when you're still trying to balance out that feminine side of you, and you kind of grew up in the sense where you want to give so much, and you give so much that you lose a part of yourself.
Yeah.
So if you are a giver out there, I will say, make sure to accept some of the gifts and things that people want to give to you, you know, because you're doing them a favor as well.
Yeah, I had to learn that, you know, like that's why, you know, being like this masculine, it's all about learning the feminine side of, you know, what love is, nurturing yourself, self love, learning to receive. Because for a long time, it was hard. I would be like, oh, no, it's okay. Or like, you know, it would always feel like I was a burden to others.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's understandable. Which is so crazy that as, you know, young teenagers that you can even feel that way, you know. But I guess kind of going into you, you know, talking about how you partied a lot and you wanted to, you know, escape and be around a lot of people and things like that. I will say in sort of my experience as well, I kind of went through, you know, as I got older and I was starting to try to heal from some of my inner child trauma, I realized that I had more things come up, you know, like I had more experiences and things that sort of triggered me in the process. And this is kind of going towards even in my spiritual journey, which we talked about, you know, in episode 2. And I think something that was so relevant in the time period that, you know, when we were in college was the partying and the drinking and self-medicating and all these things, you know, just I guess you could say these temptations, these bad habits. Yes. And a lot of the times I was just running away from some of the problems that I had internally. And like I said, like when I was going through this spiritual journey, I went through this deep like depression, this darkness where I felt alone without, you know, having, of course, any of my family members there. I had, you know, friends, but here's the thing is that we had a lot of friends and we partied a lot. That was all we did. You know, we never really sat together in a room and said, hey, like, let's connect with one another, you know, and that's kind of where people fail with these relationships is that we don't
There's no true connection.
Yes.
It's just partying and drinking.
Yes. And you don't have deep conversations. You just have surface level conversations, or it takes like this substance use to even get you to that point. You know, you got to
even talk to one another. And like, you know, when you're both sober or like, you know, everyone's sober, like it gets awkward, right? Because it's like, oh, there's no true connection here.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you know, it's sad to say that, you know, we needed those things in order to connect. But that's what it is too, you know, like in order to even connect, we had to be on the same frequency.
Exactly.
Which was, you know, in taking like alcohol.
Yeah. And that was exactly, in a sense, that's kind of what we did in college, you know, during the COVID era and everything. But, you know, I will say, you know, no regrets. It's okay. We were young and young people do those things and it's okay. But I will say too that, you know, I was going through a lot of things, like I feel like based in the relationship maybe that I was in at the time. And, you know, you go through these like points in your time where it's just meant to teach you stuff and it's totally normal, you know. But I think at the time I was trying to figure out these deeper parts of me, like what is it that hurts, or like what is it that kind of is still staying like in my heart and it stings almost, you know. And it's just interesting because I came to this point of, you know, I wanted to just kind of escape it. I wanted to do everything that I could to just like forget it, have a good time, live my best life, and just like consume whatever it is, you know, that was available to me. Party with my friends, like dance and party all night till 5 a.m. I mean,
to say that's like toxic positivity.
Yeah.
You're trying so hard to be positive, knowing that deep down inside you're not happy.
Exactly. And I think one of the hardest parts too is that you do this with a bunch of people, and you know, even you do have like close people as well, but it's also hard for you to share those things sometimes. It's like, oh, like you were talking about with feeling ashamed, or like you didn't want anybody to know. And of course I had like great roommates, of course, you know, who would come up to me and say like, hey, like if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. But there was this other part of you too that was kind of like, oh, like I know you're always there for me, but like I am also the type of person, like I don't like to cry in front of people, and I don't want to like burden you with my problem or whatever it is that I have going on internally, you know? So a lot of times I was sharing these things with just either myself or you, or like, you know, a lot of times people didn't know what was going on, and then
Yeah.
you would get into this whole like, people would judge you and they would think like, oh, she's so emotional, or she's so like this, or she's so like that. And that wasn't really the case. I think I was just going through things, and then I ended up, you know, like drinking a lot or whatever it was, but it was because, you know, that was what was just there in front of us, and
Yeah.
that's what we were doing when we were in college. I mean,
And a
it's
lot of people
normal.
don't know too, but because you were doing that, and people like, you know, misjudge you and say you're crazy, you're a party girl, you're alcoholic, or whatever it is, call you these names. Little did they know you were actually trying so hard to just keep going.
Yeah.
Like deep down inside, you were going through much more than just, you know, being this person that wants to party and have fun.
Right.
I feel like that was like the case for me a lot, you know.
I agree, yeah. And I would say that like with these like bad habits, it kind of made me feel like I knew this internally, but I didn't, of course I never told anybody this, but I would always like, the next morning I would wake up and I'd just be like embarrassed, or I'd be like, oh my God, like I hate myself. I can't believe like I did this, or I said that, or this happened, or whatever. And it's like literally the night before. And you know, it's like one of those nights where it's like nobody cares and nobody even remembers, and nobody
Yeah.
thinks about it the next day, you know? But like I said, I was only thinking about, like I said, myself. And I came to this point where I was like, yeah, there is this part of me that only I know about that I don't like. And if you truly know me, you know that like I don't like alcohol. I've never truly liked it. I've never liked the taste or the feeling. I feel like it's like just like poison. It's disgusting. But I did it, like I said, because I was so like, I wanted to escape, I wanted to have fun, and at the same time, it was a part of the environment that we were in. So it was like an easy access type of thing. But I will say too that, you know, after all of those experiences, yes, I did come to the conclusion that, yeah, I'm not happy with myself, and
Yep.
I wasn't comfortable in my own body. Everything changed for me. My mind, my body, my spirit, everything was out of alignment. Like I was so insecure of myself. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror for like a year and a half, you know? And it took me like so long to get to this point of like happiness, and it takes a lot of changes, which I'll get into that. But I will say that as soon as my loneliness and my depression and everything started to kick in, you know, like it really hit me that, oh my gosh, I have a different vision for myself and who I want to become and what I want to look like and where I want to go. So I had to refocus myself, because when you're, you know, younger, you have like all these different sort of like priorities, which is, you know, you go to school, and then when you come back, you just want to like hang out with your friends and
Yeah.
have fun. But I will say, like, later I did come to this conclusion that I want to be better, you know, I want to
Yeah.
be who I am. And the number one thing that I absolutely hated, which is also one of my shadows, is that I always cared about what people thought about me. Like
Yeah.
people would say anything about me, and it would like trigger me, because to me it was like, well, you don't know the truth about me, but why am I always having to prove and prove and prove myself and tell you more and tell you this and tell you that, when you don't even care or you don't listen, you know what I mean? So it's hard, but I will say that I've learned how to like let those comments go, and to know who I am. And you know, like I say, every experience that I faced is sacred to me. It has nothing to do with anyone else. So what other people's opinions are, you know, they don't like matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because the truth is they don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
They don't know the experiences you've gone through. They only see what you put out there. They only see you when you're partying,
Exactly.
you know? And that's not even like half of who you are.
So that was, I guess, kind of going into one of the prompts that we had in the book, which was mirror gazing. This one was interesting because when I looked at it, I actually ignored it for so many months, because I was like, oh, mirror gazing, that sounds so like awkward and like could be kind of like
Or
frightening.
scary too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions on
Yes.
but like, intentionally used, it can be
Right.
helpful.
For sure. And so, fast forward, after all these years in college and doing all of this like work and having this dark night of the soul, in 2023, I definitely changed a lot of my lifestyle and my habits for the whole entire year, which I'm extremely proud of because, like I say, you kind of have to hit this sort of rock bottom in order to wake up from this, your point of hatred when you start to like not like who you are. And I realized, January 2023 that I needed to make some changes. I wasn't happy with my body, so I wanted to be more consistent at the gym.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with, some of the foods that I was eating were low vibrational, and I was starting to learn about what conscious eating was. And I realized that my body in general is so sensitive that I had to switch over and like literally eat all things, clean, almost even like plant-based, those are like, these are foods that are literally changing your DNA to make you healthy.
Whole foods.
Yes,
Foods
like
that are
organic.
nutritional.
Yes.
Organic, no pesticides, no chemicals.
Exactly.
Because these all play a part into like why we feel the way we feel. It
Yes.
also like alters your brain chemical,
And
your DNA.
the point of your awakening, like these chemicals that are inside of your food, they literally, oh my gosh, they lower your vibration, trust me, and they block out these like you're basically awakening your third eye. And these are things that of course we're not supposed to be conscious of, but you should be conscious of this because it is affecting society. So I will say, like, in time, I learned about conscious eating. I had to buy everything organic. My body was so sensitive. I wanted to throw everything up sometimes, and you'll start to learn too as you consume food and conversations you have, everything plays a role in your life.
Just paying attention to how you truly feel inside when you do what you do, you eat what you eat, or whatever it is, you can feel the literal changes in your body.
Exactly.
Just tuning into yourself.
Exactly. And I will say, like, within the last year of 2023, I did lose like 20 pounds because another thing that I cut out in my life was alcohol.
Yeah, I agree with this a lot. Like the big part of me gaining weight too was through alcohol consumption.
Yes.
And, this was something that we did so much. It became like a lifestyle in
Yeah.
college. Like, we were party kids, that's usually what you do in college,
Right.
besides studying, of course. But yeah, like like you said, like when you started cutting out alcohol, I'm like, oh wow, like I actually slowly did it because like I noticed that I wasn't like craving it as much anymore. The one thing I did was cutting out beer.
Yeah.
Because gout is a generational like hereditary thing that gets passed down, and that kind of ran in my family. And I know it's weird because like I'm a girl, like most of the time it's like guys, but I was experiencing this and I'm like, I think it's because of drinking beer and like alcohol. And so I cut out beer, but then like I noticed that the alcohol was still like not healthy. Like I was taking longer to recover. I mean, we're getting older too, so that's kind of probably my metabolism. But yeah, like feeling like kind of just like not good the next day, or like just feeling like horrible, like migraines or like hangovers, whatever it is. And for me, every time I drink alcohol, like I consume a lot, I puke.
Yeah.
I have to, and I don't do it on purpose, but I just feel so sick inside that I need to do like to purge it out in order to feel better.
Exactly.
And so like I did start cutting out alcohol totally towards the last half of 2023.
Yeah.
And part of it was like I did get inspired by you.
Yeah.
And it helped me a lot too because I was able to be more productive. Like usually Sundays were spent to recover from hangovers or even like just partying again. And like I was able to really like be more productive, feel good in my body. I lost weight too. A lot of it was bloatedness from the alcohol consumption because there's so much like whatever it is, chemicals in there. And I feel so much lighter. I feel healthier. I don't feel heavy. I don't feel depressed the next day after going out to hang out with people.
Right, exactly. Which alcohol is a depressant. So
Yeah.
when you consume it, you are literally drinking your problems away. You're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to be sad. And it's all in the word, you know. Alcohol is kind of like, in a sense, named after a demon, you know, and
Yeah.
that's why they call it wine and spirits.
Exactly.
And that's why when you are under the influence, you are literally under the influence
Of the alcohol spirit.
yes
And that's why some people, like, they act completely different when
than
they
who
drink.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just, I mean, it gets so deep, but you know, I will say, of course, like, if you want to drink alcohol, you know, that's okay, it's not a big deal. But I will say too that just, yes, in my own personal opinion, I will say I've learned that yes, alcohol is poison, and we, you know, as a community society, the law like literally legalizes this, and then people overdo it and it becomes a problem. And it's just interesting how that all works. But yeah, I will say that, you know, I guess eventually once I came to this cutting out the alcohol and everything, and being more confident in my own body, my own skin, I realized that, wow, I can actually look at myself in the mirror now. And when I did that mirror gazing, oh my gosh, I had to like really just get out of my comfort zone, get up, and just go stare at my mirror. And I was sitting there with my mirror just like in front of me. And within 2 seconds, no joke, I started crying. And I do cry. Of course, I'm a Pisces, but lately it's been hard for me to kind of like express myself a lot.
Yeah.
Well, not express, but I guess like just cry in general. Because I have done a lot of healing already in the past where I'm like, okay, you know, I have different things to focus on. But that day in particular, I wanted to do shadow work. And I'm not even joking. This was literally last week. And I was sitting there and, you know, when I started crying and bawling my eyes out, I was told in this prompt that I had to have like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with myself.
Yeah.
And what's important, you know, don't be scared to look in the mirror, because like you said, you know, you have to be intentional. You kind of have to know that it's just you speaking with yourself and you looking at yourself, and it's just you talking to yourself. And I had like a longer conversation with myself. And the reason why I started crying wasn't because I was sad, but it was because I was like, wow, you're so beautiful. You're such a beautiful soul. And I'm so proud of you, you know,
Yeah.
because I've never done this before. And I've never, like, in the past, I was never able to look at myself without hating myself or saying something rude to myself, you know? And, you know, like, one thing I've learned is that crying is actually healing for me, and it helps me cleanse and release everything that I need to. And crying is not for everybody. But I will say, like, after I cry, like, I won't cry anymore because I just can't. I feel happier, like I release
Yes.
this weight off my shoulders, you know. And so, you know, I guess like incorporating these changes and being confident in my mind, my body, my spirit, you know, meditation, implementing things like, I guess, breath work, and also I guess just being more comfortable in your skin. You know, I do things like I dance in my room, you know what I mean? Like I do these things that are like fulfilling to me, that make me feel
Good, feel happy,
balanced,
feel
aligned.
positive.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing that I came to, or the conclusion, was that I had a major breakthrough. And this was, you know, in 2024. And when I was in college, it was 2019. When I was, you know, younger, I would say maybe even the 2015, 16 era was already so depressing for me, or maybe even younger, 2012, you know.
Yeah.
And I was only like in middle school. That's what I'm saying, is like as a child up until you get to this point, and it's like 2024, and I was able to look at myself and actually love myself and realize that, wow, you've healed and you've been through shit. You know what I mean? Like you've been through some of the worst stuff that basically, I'm sorry, but yeah, your soul signed up for, you know? And I would say, like, the biggest thing was learning how to forgive those parts of me, how to love every single version of me, and then
Yes.
coming to the acceptance of, I accept myself for who I am and I love you no matter what. And I just cried, like looking in the mirror and telling myself, like, wow, I love you so much. I want you to know, like, I'm always going to be there for you. And I have always been there for you, and I will continue to be there till the very end,
Yes.
no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, healing yourself, loving, forgiving,
Accepting
accepting.
yourself for the parts of yourself that you didn't know any better at the time.
Yeah.
Because now you do, and you can grow from that. But it
Yes.
starts with, forgiving first. And, finding that self love is a truly like beautiful thing. Like,
It is.
once you're able to truly love yourself from the inside and out, you will be able to really do anything that you wish to do in life.
Yes.
No, nothing will be able to hold you back. That's the most important thing. And I love that, you were able to heal yourself through mirror gazing.
Yeah.
Because like for me, like I don't journal a lot, but like through this shadow work journal, I started learning like, wow, like I am like learning more parts of myself that I didn't even know I needed to heal. Or like I learned that, like, why did I feel this way about myself? And that taught me to like learn to love myself through understanding that I was my biggest enemy, but I'm also my biggest savior.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. And just learning that, the things that are said about you or projected onto you, it doesn't define who you are. Sometimes, like, you are surrounded by these type of energies and you start to absorb them and feel that for yourself. And so a way that I cleansed myself was through, sage or like Palo Santo, like really like cleansing out like any negative stagnant energies that really drain you or make you feel these fears or like insecurities, whatever it is. Really helped me to work through these challenging times.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
For sure. You got to do what you got to do. And everybody has a different way of cleansing themselves. I would say definitely cleanse your energy, because it's a lot to even take in your own and then to take in others as well. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And it gets confusing because sometimes it's like, oh, why do I feel this way? Like there's no reason for me to feel this way, but it's, the energies that you surround yourself with, the environment, and the type of people you hang out with too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that was a beautiful session. Like I feel like I kind of healed through like talking about this together too. And I hope
too.
that, our viewers kind of resonated with some parts of like learning to accept themselves, learning which areas they can, work on improving themselves.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you so much for watching. And as always, stay tuned for the next episode. Follow us at theessence.soul. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Love you.
And yeah.